Step aside, Routine inspection. The guard's voice cut like ice as she was separated from the crowd. At Grayline checkpoint, heads turned toward her. Just another plain traveler with a faded rucksack. Nothing remarkable until they tore through a hidden fold and revealed a battered silver Navy SEAL insignia. Suddenly the checkpoint froze solid. Conversations halted, radios crackled uselessly. Faces shifted from boredom to stunned disbelief. Who was she and why? Did one old piece of metal make seasoned officers stiffen as if a ghost had stepped among them? Her name was Emily Carter, 35 years old, invisible on paper. But 3 years earlier, she had been someone else entirely. A figure whose name existed only in restricted files. Someone who had earned the right to wear that SEAL pin through ordeals that shattered most before they began. Now she was no one special. Just a woman moving alone. With a weathered pack. And discount store clothing. The sort of figure guards usually ignored. Unless they needed an easy target. And tonight she was that target. Grayline checkpoint was infamous for cruelty. A crossing where petty officers relieved their frustrations on powerless travelers. Emily knew the gamble when she chose this path. But sometimes, the dangerous road was the only road left. She had stood for 47 minutes before selection struck her. Not random despite the label. They had scanned the waiting crowd, choosing someone weak alone, unlikely to resist. Emily matched the role perfectly. When called forward, she stepped with calm surrender. A discipline born from years of tactical work. No sudden gestures, no resistance. Nothing to raise threat levels unnecessarily. But her eyes moved in ways a civilian's never could. Within 3 heartbeats, she had mapped exits, camera placements and potential weapons at hand. Those instincts never died. They only buried themselves deeper. Place the bag, the senior guard ordered. His tone more about power than security. Emily obeyed without a word. Setting down the single pack that held everything she owned. Spartan tools chosen not for comfort, but for endurance and survival. Gear that made sense only if you'd lived where supplies meant life or death. Traveling alone, he asked. Unzipping roughly. Yes, tourism. The lie slid easily, the truth. That she was running from those who could weaponize her past. Wasn't theirs to know. Out came clothes. A med kit, camping tools. Nothing alarming to a casual glance. But Grayline officers never stopped at casual. What's this, one muttered, lifting her tactical knife. Camping tool. A heavy tool for camping, don't you think? Emily stayed silent. She knew arguments only fed predators. A circle of spectators formed. Travelers relieved it wasn't them. Guards with nothing better than to watch humiliation. None realized the truth. The woman standing calmly, while her possessions were tossed around, had once slipped into compounds that existed only in aerial photos. Rescued captives from hopeless black sites. Earned medals that would never be unsealed. But that was before the mission collapse. Before the inquiry that ended careers. Before she learned that politics drowned heroism. Now she was a nobody, hoping to pass through unnoticed. But luck had deserted her. Oh, planning a campout, or building a militia. The guard mocked, holding her knife aloft. Laughter echoed. The blade was combat grade. For life and death work. But to them it was only a joke. Looks like she watches too many survival shows. A woman officer sneered. Think Boy Scout tricks make you hard. Emily's lips curved faintly. She'd heard worse in uniform. From instructors who doubted her. To enemies who underestimated her. Mockery had never defeated her. It wouldn't now. What else have we here? The lead officer poured through with fake theatrics. Paracord compass. Water purifiers. Seems like someone's living a wilderness fantasy. More chuckles followed. To the crowd she looked like a pretender. Playing soldier with cheap gear. But her memories betrayed another truth. Sand-blood voices begging for rescue. Rifle sights locked as she covered her team. The night everything fell apart. And Vela became liability. Every item in her bag was earned in fire. But explanations risked exposure. And exposure meant danger. You know what I think, the female officer pressed. I think you're a wannabe soldier. Washed out in training. Now you play army with junk store toys. The words bit harder than expected. Not from accuracy, but because they proved how completely she had erased her former self. To the world she was fantasy. Nothing more. Nothing to say, the lead guard prodded. Emily's steady gaze met his. I prefer listening. Oh, she talks. Another round of laughter. Since you listen, maybe explain why someone who looks fragile carries enough gear for doomsday. Before she could reply, the sharpest of the guards felt along the hidden seam she'd sewn inside the lining. A pocket that had slipped past countless searches. But not this man. Well, well, he whispered, as the zipper slid open and drew out a piece of cold metal. A trident catching the light. Its eagle and anchor unmistakable. The laughter died instantly. Chatter evaporated. Even radio calls seemed to hesitate. As though air itself had thinned. The guard stared wide-eyed. As though holding a live charge. Others leaned closer. Faces shifting from confusion to awe. Jesus, breathed someone. The female officer froze silent. Her insults shriveling in her throat. The lead guard's authority collapsed. As he compared the trident to the woman before him. When his voice returned, it was stripped of arrogance. Nobody told us, no one said a seal was crossing. The gathered crowd now understood. They had not been watching humiliation, but revelation. Emily's eyes settled on the trident. The emblem of everything lost. And everything endured. Team 7, she said, call sign Ghost. Words that silenced the air. Because truth had just stepped out of hiding. Have you ever judged someone on sight? Only to learn you knew nothing of them. Does real strength need to prove itself? Or is it carried quietly? The checkpoint shifted in an instant. A stage for cruelty. Now a crisis no one knew how to manage. Team 7, the guard repeated. The name itself was legend. SEAL Team 7, the Phantom Unit. Appearing only in blacked-out reports. And disappearing again. And here stood one of them. Sir, the female officer whispered. We must verify if she's real. Everybody understood what that meant. Insulting a civilian was paperwork. Insulting a decorated SEAL was ruin. The supervisor approached cautiously. An older veteran who knew what true danger looked like. His stance careful, respectful. We'll need to verify credentials, protocol, you see. Emily nodded, she expected this. Her trident was both shield and weakness. Serial Alpha 779. Charlie Delta 04. Operation, Nightfall Operation, Desert Ghost Operation, Broken Arrow. She recited. Names never whispered outside vaults. His eyes widened, she was no pretender. Jesus, someone muttered again. The checkpoint's air thickened. Mockery replaced by reverence. The supervisor said. I'll contact liaison for confirmation. Emily knew confirmation meant exposure. But the secret was out already. While waiting, the guards' behavior transformed. Mockers kept their distance. Older veterans drew nearer. One murmured, my son serves. He'd give anything to meet you. She gave a quiet nod. Hero worship was heavier than scorn. She wasn't a hero, only a survivor. 12 minutes later the call returned. The supervisor's face betrayed shock, fear, or credentials confirmed. Immediate clearance. But subtext flickered behind his eyes. Higher orders had been issued. The lead guard carefully returned her things. The Trident atop the pack. Like a beacon that could no longer be hidden. I'm sorry, we didn't know. You weren't supposed to, she answered. Sliding her pack on with movements too efficient to be mistaken for anything civilian. The crowd parted as she walked. Guards straightened, travelers stared. Radios whispered urgent codes. She paused at the gate, glancing back at the officer who had insulted her. The woman mouthed sorry. Emily nodded once and left. Behind her, silence fell. Everyone sensing they'd witnessed something historic. The ghost of Team 7 had passed through Grayline and taught them strength was unexpected faces. The tale spread within hours. Each retelling warped, but the truth constant. A SEAL had walked unseen until cruelty dragged her identity into daylight. The officer who mocked her resigned 3 days later. The supervisor rewrote training manuals. Treat every traveler with respect. You never know who stands before you. Younger guards adopted new eyes, seeing not weak targets, but strangers with stories unseen. I can't forget her calm, one confided. Like she knew truths we never will. Emily disappeared again. No trail, no address. Only whispers and a record of passage. Veterans quietly confirmed through channels. Her service file read like myth. Missions to places unmarked on maps. Commendations sealed forever. She was real, one Marine said. Whatever ended her career, it wasn't failure. Grayline itself became legend. Troops detoured to walk where the ghost once stood. A plaque appeared unofficial. True warriors serve in silence. And no one dared remove it. Her brief presence changed everything. She proved that the fiercest fighters rarely need to shout their strength. And respect is owed before it's earned. Checkpoint life softened after her. Travelers noticed, though they never knew why. True honor needs no audience. Emily's Trident was no trophy. It was memory, sacrifice, survival. For 3 years, she'd lived unseen, carrying blame that wasn't hers. Because sometimes the only service left was to vanish. But invisibility has limits. When you've endured trials that break almost everyone else, that kind of truth never dies. Emily's passage became lesson that heroes walk among us quietly. They fix cars, stand in lines, ride buses, carrying untold histories. True warriors don't crave applause. But when their truth emerges, everything changes. The guards at Grayline learned. Strength can look like silence, courage like compliance, and legends like ordinary travelers. Emily Carter moved through their lives less than an hour, yet altered them for years. She carried her Trident, not for pride, but as proof of both loss and endurance. A symbol heavy with silence. True warriors serve unseen. Until silence breaks. And the world remembers. Honor never dies. It only waits. Subscribe Apple Cheats. If you believe quiet legends deserve respect always.